Thank you for the introduction, and I'm very happy and actually proud to talk to you about the partnership transaction that we've done with ironSource. You might know CVC or CVC Capital Partners, actually a global private equity firm, and we are all operating globally through 24 offices. We do not have yet an office in Israel. Nonetheless, like many of our, let's say, competitors, we have a very keen interest actually in investing in Israel, and let's say identified that market for us some 3-4 years ago, where we really saw an increasing, let's say, amount of deal flow and activity also in our size bracket, which is basically investing large scale, as I said, so at a very minimum 250 million equity and above. So given that development in the market, we've targeted, let's say, Israel and Tel Aviv specifically some 3 years ago, spent a lot of time there, started to screen the market, tried to build a network and saw what could be done. And fortunately, luckily enough, were introduced to ironSource and managed to create that partnership transaction. So, to start with, let me briefly talk about what ironSource does, and then I talk a bit more specifically about the transaction, which is of course the most relevant part, I guess. So it's not really trivial to explain what ironSource does, but in a nutshell, what is really unique to ironSource is a targeting algorithm that they are developing or have developed, and actually using more than 400 data people to deploy that targeting algorithm in various different instances. So it's a leading monetization solution for mobile games, mobile apps, and PC software, basically operating in 3 different segments. So the company originally originated some 9-10 years ago in the digital solution space, so the very left part that you can see here. Back then, on the, let's say, desktop side, so what they did was when you were downloading a software, in the background an additional application was downloaded and used as an advertising. They soon moved on from that space into the developer solution, which is basically a fairly comparable business model, but more on the mobile side. And then most recently expanded into the 3rd bucket, which is the enterprise solution part. So the main reason actually why we invested was this fast-growing developer solution business on the left-hand side. And what's making that so attractive is actually that it's targeting the mobile gaming space. And as we all know, a very fast-growing ecosystem, mobile gaming. And as said, not really trivial to explain the business model of ironSource in a nutshell, but what it does, historically, mobile games have been monetizing through in-app purchases predominantly. So to get to the next level, you paid €1 or so. And now this monetization is happening increasingly through advertising. So all the casual and hyper-casual games are monetizing through in-app advertising. And ironSource has been developing into that niche segment. It's one of the dominant players actually in that segment and helps these mobile games to monetize through advertising. So to give you an idea of the size of magnitude, ironSource is roughly displaying 100 billion advertising impressions a year. It's a pure B2B business, so helping mobile games to monetize. A good way to illustrate actually that is with a brief video. So let's spend a minute just looking at the video to see. Go back. How do I start that video now? No? It was actually the intention to show a minute video.
ironSource provides monetization and marketing solutions to game developers and advertisers worldwide. Today, the world of in-game advertising is mainly driven by rewarded video. Rewarded video lets users who need additional in-game currency either pay for an in-app purchase or watch an ironSource video ad. Advertisers get in front of engaged users and only pay if users actively choose to install. And publishers earn revenue while delivering a well-balanced experience. This is a unique ad unit which is initiated by the user and infuses advertising into the game's economy. In addition to being an advertising marketplace, ironSource is also a leading monetization platform, controlling all major ad networks, while allowing developers to manage their ads in one place and maximize revenue. That means even if a user sees an ad, such as a rewarded video delivered by Facebook or Google's ad networks, it's the ironSource platform driving that value exchange. The ironSource platform powers next-generation advertising by connecting game developers and advertisers with billions of users worldwide at a point when they're actively consuming digital content.
Good. So as mentioned, just a brief illustration in a 1-minute video what basically the product is, but what you have to understand, so what's the key attraction for us behind that is actually this proprietary targeting algorithm that, that ironSource does have. So when an app is coming up, it's being basically in the split seconds identified who's the best suited audience for that advertisement, and that's the source. I don't want to miss out on actually mentioning one of the very key reasons we invested was actually this founding team. It's built around Thomas, who is running this business as a CEO. It's an incredible little team from our perspective, and we were extremely, let's say, convinced and happy and now proud to partner with them. Let me talk a bit about basically the two aspects. So what was CVC looking and what was ironSource looking for? Because as I said, we targeted the market some 3 years ago and said, okay, let's go after companies in Israel, but what was CVC basically looking for? Because each and every venture capital, or in our case, large cap private equity firm, does have different investment criteria. So we're looking for a partnership transaction with a strong team of entrepreneurs. It's a new market for us, so doing straight a 100% transaction probably would have been difficult, so we are specifically looking for a partnership transaction. Secondly, it should be a fast-growing tech company in the Israel market, because that's what basically what's really differentiating Tel Aviv and what it's so well known for now in the Israel market, then that was what we were looking for. But the challenge is actually it need to be cash generative. So it's there's quite a few highly attractive businesses, no doubt, in the Israel market that are probably having very good prospects, but for us as large cap private equity firm, difficult and challenging to invest in, because we do need to have profitable EBITDA and profitable cash flow. So in the case of ironSource, that was clearly the case. Ticks all the boxes, and very specifically also this one with well north of 140 million EBITDA a year that business is generating. The fourth aspect was that we wanted to see a very significant value add from CVC, so we consider ourselves very active shareholders. We are not passive money, we are active money, and therefore needed to develop a clear investment thesis where we said, okay, we can contribute with the further development of ironSource. And last but not least, very specifically also to this situation, we were seeking structural protection. On the other side, what was ironSource looking for? Well, it's a very, very established business, highly cash generative, as I said. Why would they need an investor, you might think, and sell 30% of the business? But there were a couple of reasons. So first of all, ironSource, now together with us, fortunately, does have very high ambitions. So we want to IPO the business in a few years' time. And in order for that to happen and to list potentially on an international stock exchange, they needed an investor to credentialize the business. It's, as said, not an easy to understand business model with the 3 different divisions, and actually using a private equity firm who has done due diligence as a way to credentialize the business model is actually a very smart way, I find. They were looking for strategic, or are looking for strategic and operational support, help prepare the business for the IPO, and actually active shareholders with an entrepreneurial mindset, which CVC brings. and someone who is experienced with further M&A, because that's an alternative, an additional source of value creation for ironSource. So very briefly, what were the cornerstones of the joint governance? And I don't want to go into too much detail here, and it's also don't have enough time, but basically we have the 4 dimensions: board composition and veto rights, dividend policy, the non-compete, and then the exit provisions, all that, what is, as usual, very important for an investor, specifically a large cap investor. And let me focus on the right-hand side. So basically, it is a partnership deal with substantial rights for CVC, strong board representation, and strong rights. We do have the downside protection mechanism I alluded to earlier, so structural protection. There's a strong founder teams that gave us the non-compete, which is critical for us in a partnership transaction. And the exit is actually relatively clear because we want to jointly go for the IPO. And that's basically what I just showed in the last slide. So phenomenal development of the company over the last year. It's really a true showcase, I find, for the strength of an Israel business. And we have very, very high ambition over the next couple of years to list that business jointly and make it a multi-billion business on one of the international listed stock exchanges. Thank you very much.